Good evening, 49er faithful. Welcome to another episode of the live 49ers Mailbag. I am your host, Rob Schuh. As always, an absolute pleasure to be here. We had a ton of questions come in today. I put out the usual Twitter feeler that says, hey, put your 49ers questions here, and they will be answered live on the Mailbag episode tonight. I got about 12, 14 submissions there. I got a couple to the Gmail address. Some were just emotional responses to what's going on with the San Francisco 49ers. Glad to see that people are in here early preparing. Dustin Kohler going to do the good work on the channel, saying, I'll reach out to Jimmy and see what's up. Dustin, please give me a heads up when you hear back from Jimmy's camp, because quite honestly, that's what the vast majority of these mailbag questions are asking about. What's the deal with Jimmy Garoppolo? Why are the 49ers so stubborn in keeping Jimmy Garoppolo on the roster? Will Jimmy Garoppolo be around for training camp? That sums up, I swear, most of the questions that came in. I'm kidding. There were a variety of questions. They were all very good. I'm going to get to the previously submitted questions right now. But as always, to explain the way it's going to work is I will jump back and forth. I'll answer a couple of the previously submitted questions where I have some of my more robust, well thought out answers. And then I will go off the cuff as you ask questions here in the chat. So throw those into the chat, whatever's on your mind, 49ers related to begin with. Sure, you can delve into Rob Schuh specific questions at some point, but let's stick 49ers to begin. And just put it in there. Type in @Rob or @Rob Schuh so that I know that you're asking a question of me and not going back and forth in the chat, speaking to one another, which oftentimes happens as well. Stivers 209 football coming in. Can the 49ers trade Jimmy Garoppolo to the Cleveland Browns to get Baker Mayfield to start in 2022? No, that would be a terrible idea, right? Trey Lance is the answer for 2022. The idea of getting Jimmy Garoppolo off the books is so that you can build a better team around Trey Lance. That would be, I think, what the 49ers are attempting to do here, bringing in an not equally, but an expensive, underperforming veteran quarterback would just muddy the situation. E. Kim, one of the sneakerheads here on the channel, @Rob, keeping Jimmy and not having any cap space is why K'Wan Williams is a Bronco and why this franchise can't keep free agents at affordable contracts. I think a couple of things here. I do not believe that Jimmy Garoppolo's salary is preventing the 49ers from signing any of these available free agents. It makes it more difficult. They do have to renegotiate other contracts to free up that money, but I don't believe the 49ers are operating with a plan that they believe Jimmy will be on the actual roster for 2022. And so I think they can operate knowing that they will eventually free themselves of that salary. And in order to get some of these deals done, they can extend a player like Jimmy Ward. They could renegotiate with Samson Ebukam in one way or another. So I do not believe it's keeping them from signing free agents, let alone K'Wan Williams, who signed a 2-year, $7 million deal. The Niners currently have over $4 million in cap space at the moment. So they most definitely could have afforded year one of that deal. I think what's more true about the 49ers passing in that specific instance on K'Wan Williams is what Ben V is saying here. I believe they want to get younger at the position, and I believe Ben V may be correct. K'Wan lost a step. Time to move on, in Ben's opinion. I do believe that the 49ers may share that opinion as well. This is an interesting one. Randall Riley coming in. The Niners will move Jimmy after he heals from his surgery and can throw. Carolina will trade for him once he can get cleared by the team doctor. That's a possibility, as is the possibility that he will be traded before he heals up, as is the possibility that they wait until he heals up and then release him, as is the possibility that they release him outright. I would argue, and this is interesting, I want to take a pause here, and I want to acknowledge there are a lot of people, not a lot of people, there are a couple very vocal people that jumped into the comments on my page and want to get on me about, not admitting that I'm wrong about something. So I want to take a moment to say this right now. I have zero problem admitting when I'm wrong. And my belief going into this was the most likely scenario would be Jimmy Garoppolo would have been traded by the time the new league year started, which was the 16th at 1 p.m. That didn't happen. I was wrong about that. I don't know how much clearer I can be in emphatically stating it. I still believed my logic approaching that. There were some parameters I did not properly anticipate. I certainly did not think that Tom Brady was going to come out of retirement. I thought Russell Wilson was going to stay in Seattle. I did think that there was a possibility Aaron Rodgers got moved, and he didn't. So that was one piece that didn't move. And I wasn't sure that the Deshaun Watson legal situation would end up with no conviction at that point. I'm sorry, no charges filed at that point. I still think that's an interesting one that bears watching. But I will say this. Yes, I got it wrong in thinking that Jimmy would be off the team. However, there are a lot of people celebrating right now that I believe are of the stance that Jimmy has no value, that the Niners should just release him. And to me, those people who are claiming they're right are not. I mean, Jimmy hasn't been traded yet. That is true, but he still could be. And I think you have to look at the idea that the only evidence that would back up Jimmy has zero value is if the Niners just outright released him. That would solidify that stance. In that case, I would completely admit I was wrong. Hey, the Niners released him. They got nothing for him. I was completely wrong. I still do believe the Niners will trade Jimmy Garoppolo and they will get something for him. I wanted to clear that up from the outset. Let me get into a couple of these previously submitted questions, and then I will get back into, we got a super chat. Got to hit the super chat, then a previously submitted question. Prince KO. Can't keep Jimmy through training camp. Cut needs to happen sooner than later. Players won't look favorably on the front office avoiding the $7.5 million injury guarantee. The injury guarantee is an interesting one because I did read a reputable source that seemed to indicate, well, if the Niners release him, yes, they would owe the $7.5 million injury guarantee. But then once he heals up and another team signs him, as long as they sign him for more than $7.5 million, that would offset the earnings from the 49ers. So I need to dig more into the injury guarantee. I do agree that could be a hinge point. They may wait until he's healthy to trade him. They may wait until he's healthy to release him as well. Both of those are absolute possibilities. Again, I think the clearest possibility, the most prevalent, the most likely scenario for me remains Jimmy Garoppolo is traded. I will freely admit that I think we get less in return for him now that this musical chairs game has slowed down. I do believe the Niners missed their prime window to get rid of Jimmy Garoppolo, and I will never say anything different. I think they missed that window. William Bennett coming in. Rob, no one knew Jimmy and his agent what Jimmy and his agent were going to do. It's not your fault. It's not the QBs. It is the surgery. I do think the surgery absolutely muddled this situation. The timing of the surgery caught John Lynch off guard. You can watch him at the combine talking about it. You can tell he was surprised that surgery took place. You could tell in the interview that happened after the Peter Schrager conversation as well. So again, I do think that caught John Lynch off guard, and you could see teams wanting to wait until you get a clean bill of health on a quarterback before signing him or trading for him. All right, I am going back into some previously submitted questions here. I will be back in the chat momentarily. All right, the first question coming in was from Johnny E. As always, these questions, some of them are lightly edited to shrink them in length so that they can fit on the banner. I don't think Johnny's was here. Johnny says, Rob, do you believe the rumor that a team offered 2 second-rounders for Jimmy G? It sounds suspect. I'll say this. I think it's possible. We cannot 100% confirm or refute any of these reports with complete certainty. That's the fact. Nothing is a fact besides that. It's all some level of speculation. It comes from a report. We look at the source, and then we decide whether we believe it to be credible or not. So let's play both sides of it. If we're going hypothetical, let's look at both sides and look at which one is more of a logical solution. Which one do you side with? It's possible that they got an offer of 2 seconds from a team that Jimmy was unwilling to negotiate with. Now, I don't say unwilling to go to because his trade clause expired at the new league year, and therefore he wouldn't have been able to veto a trade. But if he's unwilling to negotiate with a team to do a contract extension, like, say, the Washington Commanders, then the Niners could certainly force a trade. But if he doesn't renegotiate with the new team, that deal is basically dead. it becomes a very expensive 1-year rental for that team. They're no longer trading for a quarterback that they can extend over a period of time and make more affordable for this year. If Jimmy refuses to negotiate, that's basically dead. It could also be the other side of that the offer was an informal one. A team asked the Niners if they'd be willing to accept something in the neighborhood of 2 second-round picks. What I don't believe is that the 49ers turned down an offer like that. If they did, shame on them. Shame on them if they did. All right, next question coming in from Big Island Surfa. Again, if you want your live question read, put it in the chat and put in @Rob or @RobSchuh, and you will be up very soon. Again, this one coming in from Big Island Surfa. If Jimmy is on the roster going into camp, wouldn't it undermine Trey's ability to become a leader in the locker room? Again, this is the long version of the question. Wouldn't it undermine Trey's ability to become a leader in the locker room due to Jimmy's presence? Why would the Niners consider keeping him that long if their actions previously show they want Trey to start in 2022? So I broke this into 2 parts. In answer to the first question, which is, would it undermine Trey's ability to become a leader in the locker room due to Jimmy's presence? Yes, I do believe that having Jimmy on this team does undermine Trey Lance in his first year as a presumptive starter in 2022. If that's the case, I don't believe that's going to be the case. But if they kept him, yeah, I do think that would undermine Trey's ability. Jimmy's well liked in the locker room. Jimmy has his own camp in the locker room. Jimmy's an established veteran. Jimmy has won. Jimmy has taken this team to the Super Bowl, to the NFC Championship game. That would be a tricky situation. I think that's why you see Nate Sudfeld signed as the backup. But for the second part of this question, I know this makes a lot of Niner faithful upset. I understand that. But the 49ers clearly see Jimmy Garoppolo as an asset that has value. You might disagree with them on that fact, but their actions would absolutely indicate that they believe Jimmy Garoppolo has value. He wouldn't be on the roster otherwise. That's most likely what's prevented them from trading Jimmy for next to nothing or releasing him altogether, is believing, the 49ers believing that he has value. But at some point, you do have to decide if Trey's comfort is worth more than the asset they believe they can get in return for Jimmy, and then they consider cutting him at that point. Also, a possibility that they ask him to take a pay cut and to stay. That seems a little bit weird, though. I believe that would also be a mistake for locker room chemistry, but you can't rule it out. The Niners clearly don't want to give Jimmy Garoppolo away for nothing. All right, I want to get back into the chat, back into your comments. Again, make sure to hit the @Rob or @RobSchuh with those comments. Going to get into them now. Let's see here. Julian coming in @Rob. Do you think that Jimmy will get traded by week 1? And do you think Trey will do good this season? Yes and yes. I think Jimmy is traded before the beginning of camp because of the risk of injury. I'll get into that later. And I absolutely believe Trey is going to have a good season. I think he will statistically have a compelling season, comparable season to what Jimmy Garoppolo had last year. But I do believe that his added weapons with his legs will take this team even further. I don't know about whether we'll be back in the NFC Championship game, but I anticipate that we will be fighting for like an 11-6, maybe even 12-5 record. I'm telling you. Zach Hodges @Rob. I think Jimmy having no value would be perfect karma for what Jimmy and his agent did. Okay, so I've even played into this one, and to that, I have to clarify my position. I played into this one by acknowledging what Joe Staley said, in that there could have been a little bit of, well, you guys did me dirty throughout the year in flirting with other quarterbacks. This is Jimmy talking. You flirted with other quarterbacks. You know, paid all that to bring in my replacement, and then you asked me to be the leader of this team, and you cut my legs off throughout. I do think that he may have been a little perturbed by that. And so when he went to go make his decision, if he thought to himself, well, this might negatively impact the 49ers, that he may say, well, I don't care anymore. Like, they did me dirty. I'm not going to look out for their best interest. I'm looking out for me. So that's what I think happened, is that Jimmy was just concerned with him, not what the trade value was, not what was best for the 49ers, but what his doctor said was best for the injury. So my guess is he tried to go without surgery. It didn't heal. and then he went ahead and opted for the surgery. But again, that is a guess based on all of the available information that is out there. I don't see him as a real terrible person. I don't. That Niner guy coming in at Rob Schuh. Here's the big issue. We, the fans, feeling the Niners are a player or two away from a ring in 2022 versus the front office planning for a 4 to 5 year window. I do think that is one of the major disconnects that's happening between what you see on 49ers Twitter, what you hear from 49er faithful, and what you're not hearing from the 49ers front office in the moves that they're making. I agree. I think they're taking a prudent approach, and they are much more concerned with long-term stability than any one-year push all in. That would be my take on it. That Niner guy going on to say more at Rob Schuh. Feel like Jimmy is staying. Hate to say it. Cohn versus Lombardi round 2. Calling it now. I can't get on board with this yet. It's a possibility. It's a distinct possibility. I just don't think it's likely. It would be so chaotic. But the Niners have shown they're okay with a little bit of chaos. I mean, they did trade up for 3 last year, way too far in advance. You would think they learned their lesson from that. Steve Avia coming in, sneakerhead on the channel. Let's show Rob some love, faithful. Show your appreciation for this channel by hitting the like button. And if you're not subscribed, here's Sam Witwicky screaming, do it. Do it. Yes. Sign up. Just do it. E. Kim. At Rob, this front office was too slow in possibly trading Jimmy. They need to be raked over the coals for not being more proactive. I agree that they deserve criticism. I don't know that I would go so far as to say they need to be raked over the coals, at least not until we see what the end result of this thing is. That's the irony here is we get very upset. We want to talk about what hasn't happened yet, and it's not over. It is not over. Kim Adams at Rob, don't give Jimmy away. Get a tuna sandwich for him. Why tuna? Why not egg salad? That's what I want to know. Philip at Rob, what are the cap implications for cutting Jimmy G or even keeping him? The dead money, I believe, stays the same between cutting or trading Jimmy Garoppolo. Same dead money for the 49ers. The big difference is the injury guarantee. I don't want to spread any misinformation there, so I'm going to dig more into the injury guarantee. I will get back to you. Joshua Brady Horst coming in to say 6,660 subscribers. Congrats, but also the little devil horns, because it is the sign of the beast there. We got to get past that. We need some more subscribers to get to 667. Come on. No more sign of the beast. Joey Nichols at Rob, what does your big board look like at this point? How many guys do you have first round grades on? Honestly, I have not built out a big board at this point. I have built out my favorites, and I will get to some of those favorites a little later in this episode. Bonnie wants to know, where's my trade for a mug? Bonnie, you gotta hit me up with some pictures that you said you had to sign. I have a feeling that with shipping costs where they're at right now, it might be more beneficial if I just go out and get the sign you're talking about, and if you just go out and get a mug. But I'm still open to the swap because it's good-natured fun between 49ers fans. All right, I'm getting back into we got the super chat. Jaguayo56 coming in at Rob Schuh. Should we target safety or edge with a second round? If safety, I like Petrie out of Baylor or Cook from Cincy. Edge, Pascal or Thomas from SDSU. Jaguayo, I absolutely love those two positions. This is in combination with someone else's question that came in. So let me get to this so I can kill 2 birds, 1 stone here and get this banner up. This one comes in from Panda Express. So Panda Express and Jaguayo56 are on the same page. You see that? Where did that go? Jaguayo56 right here asking, who do I like, safety or edge? I like both of those positions. This one comes in from Panda Express. Defensive line and safety should be addressed. Who are players that you like, good fits, either free agents or via the draft? So let me go in its entirety, and then I'll come back to your question, Jaguayo, and hit it one last time, because this is going to answer part of it. I'll answer the second part in just a moment. So to me, I looked at the free agents first. When I look at the edge, you got Clowny, but you got a steep injury history, and the price is going to be high. I think I'd pass. Derek Barnett, I would love that signing. Derek Barnett, young. He has 76 quarterback hits in his career. Quarterback hits are something that could easily translate into sacks, but he's been underperforming from a statistical standpoint. He's got the talent. It seems like a great project for Chris Kocurek, right? Kocurek, a win-win. Get him in for a year, get maximum production. He gets max production and then goes to sign a lucrative contract, much like Kerry Hyder did and what it seems like Arden Key may do. Then there's Melvin Ingram. That one's interesting. He's old. There's injury issues, but he could probably be had for very cheap on a one-year deal. So if I missed on Derek Barnett, I would look at Melvin Ingram for the edge. Safety, I think we're done in free agency for safety if I'm just being blunt about it, but I looked at some of the candidates I would bring in if we could. Tyrann Mathieu, that would be a moonshot. I don't think the 49ers are going to be able to afford that. I don't think they want to afford that. It seems that they have addressed the safety level in free agency to where they're comfortable, having Tavarius Moore, the new special teams gentleman coming in from the Colts, whose name is escaping me at the moment, and Talanoa Hufanga as well. So I believe that there is going to be a competition there between those three. But if I look to other safeties available, Terrell Edmonds, I really do like that as another underperforming individual, first-round talent coming off of the Steelers, young, hasn't quite lived up to his potential, and far less expensive. So if we were going to address it in free agency, that would be the route I would go. If we're going draft, on the edge, I like a couple of names that'll probably be gone. Boye Mafe and Nick Benito, probably gone there. Ebiketie is another one that I would throw in there on the edge. Safety, I really love Jalen Petrie. And people that I trust, like Leon O'Neal Jr. So I would be okay with that. If I had a chance at Jalen Petrie, to get back to the question at hand from the Super Chat, that answers Panda Express's question that came in. But in getting back to my Super Chat here, come on now, Super Chat, cooperate, Jaguayo 56. If I had to choose between the two, I think I'm going safety. I think I would try to reach for Jalen Petrie. It's contrary to what my initial gut said. And man, it's a tough one. I thought for sure the Niners would have 2 second-round picks. I was wrong about that, or at least so far I was wrong about that. So I thought we'd be able to attack both of these. This is an on-the-fly call. If we could get Petrie in the 50s, I would move up for that. If not Petrie, then edge. That's my specific answer. All right. I am looking at some of your comments here. We're going to get into it. If I missed your comment, if it came before that Super Chat, feel free to copy and paste it back in there. Nick Money Meyer at Rob. They all said goodbyes, LOL. If they keep him, Lynch needs to be canned. It is wild. That will be the emotional toll on the team. They literally said their goodbyes. It's weird. It's a weird situation, people. Diana coming in at Rob. Do you think we will sign Debo or Bosa? I'm guessing first, because I think we signed both of them. I thought the Niners would be wise about this and sign both this offseason. However, one or both camps, most likely Bosa's camp, may say, hey, we've got the fifth-year option. We're not going to sign this offseason. We would rather wait because we will get more money. You would still think that you could sweeten the deal enough, give enough guaranteed money to tempt him to say, hey, you might get injured this year. Better to take all, two birds, a bird in the hand versus two in the bush, right? I would think Bosa's camp is chasing the two in the bush. So my guess is they sign Debo sometime around July and then Bosa next year. I would get both done this year. Michael Ryder at Rob, is something going on with Carolina? They did just restructure McCaffrey to gain $5 million in cap. Now Carolina has about $20 million in cap space. Could a Jimmy trade be forthcoming? Michael, yes, it could. Yes, it absolutely could. Am I banking on it? No, I have gotten my hopes up one too many times with this Jimmy Garoppolo sweepstakes. And so I am going to be patient. Could it mean something? Yes. Carolina seems like the most likely landing spot for Jimmy, but there's no market, right? The report that I've seen was that Baker and Carolina were sort of disinterested in one another. So if it's just Carolina and just Jimmy, I just don't know where's the pressure to get a deal done. Could this thing drag out for some time? One of either our front office or theirs needs to be motivated to make the deal happen. Julian Sanchez at Rob, do you think that Trey would lead us to a Super Bowl? If yes, then how many do you think he will get us? I think he has the potential. I don't put all the pressure on Trey Lance. This team is capable of winning Super Bowls. I do think that, you've got a big window here. I'm not going to make a bold prediction about how many they might win. I think they have a healthy chance of winning one with this roster. I would be completely thrilled with a single Super Bowl win because it has been a long time. Quesadilla Thrilla 71 at Rob, is the shoe fits? If the shoe fits, can Jimmy fit as a bridge quarterback? LOL. Thank you. I viewed Jimmy Garoppolo as an ideal fit for those teams that wanted to continue winning now. Most of those teams are by the wayside at this point. The market has cooled substantially. Whether the Niners misplayed it or whether Jimmy Garoppolo's value was never there, it certainly didn't play out in the way I hoped and predicted that it would. I was definitely wrong about that. I do think, though, that Carolina's under enough pressure to win that they might act like a team that is winning now. Roger Sellers, sneakerhead here on the channel, coming in at Rob Schuh. I feel like the big talking point here is the lack of emphasis on this offensive line and protecting the asset that is Trey Lance. I agree, but let's keep in mind that there are two positions that are unsettled where the 49ers have significantly more information than we do. Center, they may know that Alex Mack is coming back. They may have that confirmation. We think it's likely, those are the reports that are available to us, that it's very likely Alex Mack comes back. That leaves open the possibility he doesn't. And then Mike McGlinchey, they would know where he is in his rehabilitation process. So they may feel that those two positions are far more solidified than we do. And they may have a better idea of how Aaron Banks would fare at left guard than at right guard. So they may feel that they have that position all shored up. And then they extended the tender to Daniel Brunskill. So they may really view this as, hey, we need a little bit of depth there, but we can basically, stay the course at a significantly lesser cost by not signing Laken Tomlinson. I still think it was a mistake, but they may view it as, fairly well taken care of. I still would see them investing in the interior O-line somewhere around the third round in the draft. That's my prediction. 420 Savage at Rob Schuh. Wouldn't Arden Key be inexpensive as a pass rusher? Why would the 49ers let him walk after he showed improvement? He hasn't walked as of yet, correct? Arden Key has not signed anywhere, or did he? Let's look at that. 7 hours ago, Arden Key was visiting the Jaguars. So I still think there's a high likelihood that he goes out, tests the waters, and then comes back. I do think the 49ers would look to re-sign Arden Key. That seems to me as a target, but they're not going to overpay because they view that they can continue to turn dust into diamonds, if you will, coal into diamonds, whatever the saying may be. Leonardo coming in at Rob Schuh. Hi, Rob. I'm from Brazil and love your show with Grant. How much time do we need to wait to celebrate for the Jimmy G trade if it's going to happen? I think we got to be patient. I think what has hurt 49er faithful, and I bear some responsibility of saying, I really think they're going to get rid of Jimmy by the new league year, that we had this expectation. And then when it didn't happen, it felt terrible. So let's pump the brakes and be pleasantly surprised when that frickin' trade does happen. Because I still think it happens. I agree with that. Niner guy Petrie doesn't make it to 61. I think at best he makes it into the 50s and the Niners have to trade up. Paul M. at Rob Schuh. Do you believe the front office thought Jimmy's knowledge of Shanahan's system would be of value to other teams, but watching him fail to execute that system for 5 years scared GMs off? I don't. I think the most likely reasons that teams were disinterested were 1 year remaining at $25 million, an injury history, recovering from an injury right now, and relatively inconsistent play. I think those are the primary drivers for the reason that Jimmy's market cooled. That and all of these names that popped in unexpectedly. Tom Brady unretiring definitely threw a wrench in the plans. Derek Swanson, this is great. At Rob Schuh, people forget how creative a trade could get. Jimmy, our 93rd, a third round in 2023, and our 187th pick from Denver for Carolina's number 6. I don't think that's a likely trade, but it points out that you can get creative with it. I don't think that Carolina's going to want to give up that first round pick, but you never know. It's a chance. Alan coming in at Rob. Good evening. What do you think of today's signing? Who did the Niners? I don't think the Niners have signed anybody today. If you want to put in a name that you have in mind, there were a couple of press releases for the players that we already signed. But as far as I'm aware, the 49ers did not sign anybody today. But Alan, please feel free to put it in there if I'm just having a brain fart about that. All right, I'm going to get back into the previously submitted questions, just making sure that I'm not missing anything here. Just making sure. All right, I will be back into the chat to get to your questions in just a second. I am going back into the previously submitted questions. I jumped around a little bit on that last one, so I just got to make sure I'm not repeating myself here. Okay. I like this one from SF49ers 89. This one coming in. Again, some of these are adjusted just a little bit. So I will read the original question. You can follow along with the one on the screen. When you take into account the coaching changes and free agency to this point, both losses and additions, have the 49ers done their job to put Lance in a position to succeed next year? I do believe that the Niners have been somewhat conservative in their approach to free agency. I think that's sort of their pattern. That's where they're comfortable. They make the occasional splash, but they're not big free agency spenders, nor should they be, right? Typically, you want to add a couple of key pieces through free agency, but primarily you want to build through the draft and sign your own guys. That's the best way to sustain success. Those splash moves are generally reserved for like getting yourself over the hump. And that's why I say they've been somewhat conservative, because I haven't seen the splash moves for a team that feels like they're about ready to get over the hump. I haven't seen those splash moves. It strikes me as a team that's just not sure if they're just a good playoff team or if they're a team that could be legitimately competing for a Super Bowl with the best teams in the league. I feel like if the 49ers knew wholeheartedly that they were a single piece away from a championship, they'd be foolish not to make a play for whatever piece that is that they feel they're missing. So my interpretation is that the fact that they have let some key players walk and they're allowing backups to essentially vie for spots. I'm looking at left guard. I'm looking at the safety spot. That tells me that they're in a bit of a wait and see mode. A little bit of a wait and see mode. Not entirely. They definitely made some moves to try and get better on special teams. Charvarius Ward was a big swing at the plate, but they did let a couple of guys walk. But they've left themselves flexibility. It jives with how the 49ers like to do business. They like a sustainable approach to team building. They build through the draft and pay their own players. I just wish that they had paid more of their own this time around. That's the one real miss that I thought the 49ers had in free agency. All right, getting to another one. This one coming in from Dan R. Here we go, Dan. If no trade market develops for Jimmy over the next few months, will the Niners cut him as soon as he can pass physical so they don't have to pay him the injury guarantee? I don't believe the 49ers would want to run the risk of bringing Jimmy into camp at his existing deal. There's too much of a risk of injury where you wouldn't get the benefit of him playing, you wouldn't get the benefit of him backing up Trey, and you'd have to pay him his entire salary. My guess is that if he hasn't been traded by then, that the 49ers would first approach Jimmy about taking a pay cut, and if he's unwilling to do so, then yes, I do think that they would cut him before they get to any practice activities for the team. The next question is a follow-up to that. Ramon, what's the likelihood Jimmy's on the team past OTAs? I see this as the last likely scenario, the least likely scenario, the last scenario that could play out. But I have to admit, it is possible. There is a possible scenario in which Jimmy's on this team. If he's back, I would think it would be with a renegotiated contract and as the backup, but that's just a guess. I hope that the Niners are wise enough to avoid that chaos and do ship Jimmy out or cut him if need be. Getting back into your comments. Appreciate all of the interaction that is going on in the chat. I am always fired up by that. At Schuh, I was with you too about Jimmy's trade value. I think we still were right, but they messed it up by not trading him fast enough. That is my summation. That's what I believe to be true. I don't have the evidence for it. Someday somebody will write a book and maybe we will find out what happened. But I just think if you said to yourself, well, Jimmy has no value, and you're feeling very vindicated right now, it depends on what your logic was. If you correctly predicted some of the key pieces that would come back into this, if you correctly predicted that Jimmy's shoulder surgery was going to hinder the process, if you correctly predicted the Niners would be asking too much, then I think you are vindicated. Then I think you are very much correct. But if you are saying to yourself, Jimmy has no value, the simple fact he's still on the team refutes that point. Ekim, at Rob, I see a mediocre season this season since it's the Kyle pattern. There has been an up season, a down season, an up season, a down season, no doubt about it. But I see the excitement around Trey Lance, the depth of this team. I don't believe that will be the case, but I could see why you might believe that. Innovative Energy is the newest sneakerhead on the channel. Welcome, Innovative Energy. I appreciate everybody who's here supporting the channel, no doubt about it. And Innovation Energy coming in with the super chat, and I agreed it. I appreciate it. I don't know what that word was I just used there. All right, Innovative Energy, sneakerhead here on the channel now. Trade Jimmy G to where? No one left to value a Jimmy G type quarterback. I agree. It looks bleak. And there may not be a trade partner. The 49ers may have to cut Jimmy Garoppolo at some point. They may have to come to him about a contract renegotiation. I do think the last couple of teams that you have any shred of a hope for, Carolina or a surprise coming out. You know, Philly talked about trying to upgrade. Maybe. The Giants, maybe. I do think Carolina is the most intriguing one. And the move in freeing up the $5 million in salary cap is a fascinating move. It does. The math adds up in what's available for the Panthers and how much you would need in order to trade Jimmy Garoppolo. Julian Sanchez, at Rob, if you think about it, Bosa is the only first-round pick that has been good to us. That's an intriguing one. I would have to go through. It's early to say that Mike McGlinchey's fate is sealed. Hell, what if he rebounds from this surgery? I'd say the jury is still reasonably out there, but I get people who feel that it's a bit more settled. Certainly Solomon Thomas. There have been some misses for the 49ers. But that's an interesting point, Julian. Very interesting. Not every team misses, but I agree. The Niners have had some key misses. Come on Friday, says at Rob, I only see two holes, defensive line and offensive line, but both honestly can be addressed in the draft as both positions have depth in this draft. All other positions look solid to compete in the NFC. Your thoughts? The 49ers definitely need some further depth at wide receiver. They just don't have the bodies on the roster right now, so I think that's still a need for them. I still would list safety and nickel as needs, but they're more fringe needs than direct needs, I would say. I do like the idea of Emmanuel Moseley sliding inside, but it makes us very dependent upon the health of Emmanuel Moseley. So I think having some depth at nickel or someone who's very versatile that can play both safety and nickel could be advantageous if they get that in a rookie. I definitely agree with defensive line and offensive line, and I do think both of those are deep in the draft, and I do believe the Niners address both of those within the first 4 rounds. So I think we are in alignment on a lot of stuff. A lot of alignment. Yes, George Odom was the name I couldn't find earlier. George Odom. Thank you, Alan. Appreciate that. Oh, and that's who you were talking about. So that was the name I couldn't think of earlier, and that's who you were talking about. So I view George Odom as a great signing. I am a little worried that the 49ers are getting cute in trying to find value for that starting safety position. I think they look at Tarvarius Moore coming off of that ACL, Talanoa Hufanga as a talented, rookie last year, but having a competition between them and George Odom, who's primarily an all-pro special teams player that did start 7 games for the Colts last year at safety and was a stud down in the box, if I understand it correctly, in the research that I've done. I still am worried that you don't have a proven starter at that point. You're going, well, have some competition. Someone will rise to the top. There's a lot of risk in that strategy. What if somebody doesn't rise to the top? That one is the bigger question mark for me. That Niner guy at Rob Schuh. I think we all need to prepare for this. The Niners are going to play the youngster this year. Banks, Lenoir, Thomas, Lance, Huff, Sermon, LOL, and 22 draft class. Gonna see what they got. That would be a complete departure from previous years, that Niner guy. I would be intrigued just for that simple fact, just for the reversal in theory. If they were like, well, years past, we couldn't afford to start the young guys, but this year, we going all in on the young guys. That would be shocking and honestly quite thrilling to watch just from that strategic standpoint. So I don't think that's the case, but I do think they're going to be far more reliant upon the youngsters this year than last. I think part of that is out of necessity in that they decided they had to let some of these older guys walk, which I think is unfortunate. That's for sure. E. Kim coming in. Rob, Jimmy has no trade value since he's injury prone, mediocre throwing arm, and throws to open defenders and missing open receivers. No one wants to pay that money for a quarterback like Jimmy. So, E. Kim, your stance then is that the prohibiting factor, given all of these limitations of Jimmy G, which you've laid out here, that the prohibiting factor is his salary, the $25 million. I think that could be fair. That's certainly what some teams are avoiding. Those that are up against the cap, those that went a less expensive route, something like the Pittsburgh Steelers, who decided to go with Mitchell Trubisky. I think his deal was like 2 years, $14 million. I think cost was a factor in their decision. So I do think that these are relevant factors in the choice. I just fundamentally disagree with your assertion, E. Kim, that he lacks complete value. And I do believe I'll be vindicated on that, but I will be more than willing to admit that I was wrong, just as I admitted I was wrong about him being off the roster by this point. I thought that was the most likely scenario, and that is not how it played out. Michael Ryder coming in at Rob. The way free agency is shaping up, the 49ers will get several compensatory picks next year. Could that be a plan? Have more ammo for 2023 big splash moves. I do think that the Niners play the compensatory pick game. In this season, I don't know that it's shaping up for the Niners to get a whole lot. The Charvarius Ward signing, I think, will crack that, method of offsetting one of the other compensatory picks. So they may only be in line for one compensatory pick as it stands right now. But I do think the Niners are intelligent in their moves and do take that into consideration. I don't think it's a driving factor in why you would make a choice. But if you're coming down to a decision that's a tough one, I think you weigh in with that parameter. David Williams. Hi, Rob. New here. Jimmy G's a mosquito, and we can't get rid of him. David, welcome. I'm sorry that you're here during such a chaotic time, but it will get better. I promise. We'll get some resolution at some point, but welcome, David. It gives me the chance to say, hey, if you're new here, please consider hitting the like button. Help me amplify the message. Send out my little pirate radio signal to more and more folks. And if you're not subscribed to the channel and you enjoy the content, consider hitting the like button. Get me above that 6,666 mark so we can get to 667. We don't need the mark of the beast around here. We need to get rid of the mark of the beast. That's going to help with the Jimmy G trade. E. Kim. Rob, I watched Notre Dame football. McGlinchey was carried by Quentin Nelson. That might be. I mean, the same question could be asked about Laken Tomlinson, right? Joey Huff at Rob, we re-signed K1. We did not. K1 got signed by someone else. He got. K1 got. Yes, Chris is right here. K1 is gone. K1 got signed to a 2-year, $7 million contract with Denver. So I don't think that was an issue of not being able to pay him. I know we have enough cap space as it stands right now for that contract. We just chose not to match it. K1 was enough. He had lost enough of a step to where the Niners were comfortable letting him go. Admin honor at Rob. We need to draft right tackle, right guard, center, left guard, left tackle in the 3rd to 5th rounds because Trent Williams and Alex Mack will be gone in 2 years. Also, we need to sign a right tackle and left guard to protect Lance. Do we really want 2 or 3 rookies on the offensive line? No. And admin honor, I don't mean to be in direct opposition to this, but I don't think the 49ers are going to come close to investing anywhere near that amount of capital into the offensive line. I would guess that they probably use 1 draft pick on an interior offensive line and that they may bring in an undrafted free agent as well. But I think when you look at the depth of the 49ers, they feel really good about Colton McKivitz. They feel really good about Justin Skule. They feel really good about Jalen Moore, right? They feel great about Aaron Banks. So I believe the Niners think they're a lot more fleshed out at offensive line than many of the faithful do. I agree that at some point you're going to need to replace Trent Williams. I don't think that's going to be in the next 2 years. I do think you need to draft a guard who will eventually be Alex Mack's replacement. That's the draft pick I would use, and it would be in the 3rd round if it were me. I see that as the only offensive line move that the 49ers make in the draft. Again, maybe doing an undrafted free agent to bring in as camp fodder. Julian Sanchez at Rob, didn't we sign Ray McLeod as a punt returner? Yes, we did, but that was the other day as well. Nothing has happened today so that I know of. But Ray McLeod has been signed. He is our punt returner and will presumably be our 4th wide receiver. He had more catches out of the slot last year for Pittsburgh than Jawan Jennings had out of the slot for the 49ers. Random fact that I learned in listening to Matt Mayoko's podcast today was that Deebo Samuel led the 49ers in catches out of the slot. Interesting, fun fact. All right, I'm going to get back into a previously submitted question, but I will be back into the chat. Again, please put in your question with @Rob or @RobSchuh so that I know you are referring to me with those questions. Let me get back into these previously submitted questions. This one's coming in from Gary T. Again, this is always me reading the abbreviated version. Reading the full version. The abbreviated version is on the screen. Here we go from Gary T. Bringing this one up. Do Lynch and the front office care at all what the fan base think? They are the lifeblood of the 49ers, yet the silence is deafening. Why do they not come out and clarify the quarterback situation, considering it's driving the fans crazy? Seems they just don't care. Gary T is fired up. I loved the emotion that was in that. I think they care, but they don't. Right? They kind of care. I mean, they care, but they don't. Like, they care, but they're not thinking of us. They care what we think and that they want us to be happy. But if it's a choice between doing what they believe is right and making the fan base happy, they're going to do what they believe is right all the time and count on the idea that eventually we will come around, that we will see the light of their plan, because it looked pretty bleak last year when they kept Jimmy Garoppolo on the frickin' team, right? It looked pretty bleak at some point in that season. And then at the end of the season, when you look back, having lost in the NFC Championship game, I at least said to myself, wow, it turned out a hell of a lot better than I thought it was going to. So I think they have earned some trust in that regard. The reason they don't come out and say something is that the situation's ongoing. Until there's some resolution, they would literally hurt their negotiating strategy by providing any information, because that information wouldn't just come to us as fans. That would come to every other team that they are attempting to negotiate with still in getting rid of Jimmy Garoppolo and his salary. I'm sure that John Lynch is still hoping to trade Jimmy Garoppolo. I'd guess that we'll hear something at the upcoming NFL owners meeting. That is happening March 27th through the 30th. Let's just force somebody who's there to ask Jed York. Jed, we want to know. We got to pressure Jed. Jed'll fold. We just got to pressure him. Dan R. with the next question here. What's more likely? The Niners received no trade offers, or they received offers they felt were insufficient? I think we absolutely have to acknowledge, Dan, that both are possible. I think one is probably more probable than the other. There's also the possibility that there was a trade offer that came in from a team Jimmy wasn't willing to negotiate with. Again, I think that would have been the Washington Commanders, right? There's a chance Jimmy said, no, I will not renegotiate a contract with Washington. You can trade me there because I don't have a no trade clause after the new league year starts, but I'm not going to renegotiate a 3-year deal with them, right? In that case, Jimmy becomes an incredibly expensive 1-year rental, and then nobody wants to trade for him because who wants a 1-year rental that's going to get paid $25 million? So Jimmy had to be willing to renegotiate. I think it's possible he wasn't. I will say again, if the 49ers had those offers and they passed, huge mistake. Huge, enormous, to quote Seinfeld. I think huge was quoting Seinfeld. Enormous is not. They're real and they're spectacular. Better quote from Seinfeld. Better quote. All right, here's the next question from Benedict B. coming in. It is hard to believe, again, this is the full question here, just in case I abbreviated the one that's on the screen. It is hard to believe that Kyle, who wants to move off of Jimmy for the last 3 years, is fine to let this play out into training camp only to start a quarterback controversy. Who's stepping up in the front office to finally make a call? To me, this situation sits squarely on John Lynch. It has from the outset, and it does right now. This is his role. This is his wheelhouse. I believe that he did overplay his hand. To me, it is evidenced by all the other quarterbacks that were moved during this period. Certainly, there were some factors that were out of his control that played into that, the Jimmy surgery being one, and the other quarterbacks that unexpectedly returned or moved that you just couldn't have predicted accurately. Those factors were out of his control. Everything else, the price he put on Jimmy Garoppolo, the speed with he acted, again, falls on him. So I believe that John Lynch has to step up in this situation. All right, I'm getting back into your comments now. The live stuff. Got to love the live stuff. That Niner guy at Rob Schuh on the funny side. Glad we are not talking about quarterback pro days. Yes, it is not the same chaos that we had last year around this time. It is better in that regard. Official BNA Music 88 at Rob. If Jimmy was as good as some folks' spreadsheets say, trading him should be simple, even with the $28 million for 1 year and injury. Other teams are not drinking the he's a winner Kool-Aid. I agree. I think that the opinion of Jimmy Garoppolo must reflect the fact that he was not traded. And I think that's a bit of an oversimplification to go from he wasn't traded, therefore he's trash. I don't think that's what you're doing here. I don't. But some people are. Some people are making that logical leap from, well, Jimmy wasn't traded. Jimmy has zero value. Jimmy is trash. That to me is just not a fair examination of all the factors that went into this. It ignores the injury and the surgery. It ignores some of the other unknown scenarios that played out. So I agree. It's a reflection on Jimmy, and I don't think it's a complete. I don't think it's a complete write-off of how teams feel about Jimmy Garoppolo. I believe Jimmy will be starting for a team next year. No question. Philip says, at Rob, you were the first analyst I've heard say it was a mistake to let Tomlinson get away. Moving Banks to left guard only kicks the can down the road. Now we need a right guard. I tend to agree. I mean, I don't know that I would have paid Laken Tomlinson what he got. I get letting him walk, but I also think that it was a mistake to let him go and assume that you're just going to plug in Aaron Banks. To me, it's questionable when you're putting in a young quarterback. Come on Friday. Rob, the shoulder killed the trade market. We all know Jimmy G was in play for multiple teams, just bad timing. His cap number in 2 years will be downright cheap for a starting quarterback in the NFL. Fan base, settle down. I do think he will still get traded. I do believe that he will be a starter, but time will tell, and I'm going to be patient about it. Let it play out. Kim, Rob, we'll have to meet up in Chicago for that deep dish pizza or Italian beef sausage combo sandwich. That's a fact, Kim. Let's meet up for that Chicago road game. LA Blue 49 at Rob. Watch Jimmy start for us again this year and somehow make it to the Super Bowl. And those teams that didn't trade for him miss the playoffs. Crazy thought. Crazy and stressful thought, LA Blue 49. I don't know if I could take another season with both quarterbacks on the roster, let alone if the quarterbacks can take it. It's got to be stressful. Starco Fan 212 at Rob Schuh. Do you think the Giants could be a trade partner for Jimmy G? I do think that's a sneaky one to keep your eye on. Philly, New York, it's possible. It's possible. Joey Nichols at Rob. Cole Strange in the third round to play guard and take over at center when Mac retires. That's my dream. That's my dream. Just a dude, man. Sneakerhead here on the channel. Rob, this regime has gotten us to a Super Bowl and 2 NFC championships in 3 years. I trust them. There are a lot of good free agents left out there. There are a lot of good free agents left out there. I don't think the Niners are going to be in on very many of them, but I do believe they will add a couple of names that at the end of the day, we must factor into the equation as to whether free agency was successful or not. It's too early to give a grade on anything other than the players they've already gotten or the ones that have signed with other teams. Those are the grades we can give at this time. And it's based on past performance, not future performance or future value. Anthony Gold Rush at Rob. Do you think they'll address running back, or are we good with what we have now? I think they may bring in someone to compete for that third down specialist role that currently is Jermichael Hasty. I just think that that's the weak link in the running back room personally, but I would look for the Niners to address that like 7th round or undrafted free agent after the frickin' draft. Steve Avia at Rob, I'd like to see Jimmy humble himself and take a pay cut to stay as Trey's backup for now. He's been a stand-up guy for the organization and deserves more respect than most fans give him. I don't think that's likely. I do agree with the second part of that. I think he's been a stand-up guy for the organization. I'm not one to criticize him right now for the surgery. I'm guessing that he did what he felt was right for him. He doesn't strike me as the type of guy that would be spiteful in that way. I could be wrong. He might be spiteful. He might have done that to say F the 49ers. Just doesn't seem like the kind of guy that we have known over the last 5 years. I tend to trust myself on those types of evaluations of people after I observe some of their behavior for 5 years. Paul Perryman at Rob Schuh. A lot of the moves the Niners have made since drafting Lance have reeked of dysfunction. Not saying they are dysfunctional, but maybe too many cooks in the kitchen. I'd have to know which ones you're looking at, specifically to agree or disagree. I think the 49ers have executed their plans pretty well. I think they have ridden the line on some things. They've done some things I wouldn't, but the end result of those decisions has left me feeling like I can't critique them too harshly. I mean, would I have rolled with Jimmy Garoppolo and Trey Lance last year? I don't think so. But the end result of that was a pretty positive one. That Niner guy at Rob Schuh, they're not saying anything because they do what good would any statement be at this point? Yeah, that was my point earlier. Nothing good to say, so don't talk until you have good news, or any news for that matter. It doesn't have to be good. It just has to be something, right? And as of right now, I think that they don't. Abel, they care, but they don't. Like, they care, but they don't. I thought that was good too, Abel. I thought that was good. Yes, JG1, after March 16th, he didn't have any say on where he was traded, but he certainly has a say as to whether he's going to renegotiate a contract with those teams. So if the Niners said, hey, we're trading you to the Washington Commanders, and that's that, Jimmy, because you don't have a no trade clause anymore. Jimmy says, great. I'm not going to negotiate a deal with them. I become a 1-year rental to the Washington Commanders, and a 1-year rental that costs them a draft pick to trade for and $25 million to pay. So that becomes a non-starter in my book. That becomes a non-starter. All right, I am going to get back into... All right, one more. Derek Swanson. Dark horse. Detroit Lions. Where's Dustin Kohler when we need him? Where's my buddy that's a Lions fan? Dustin, I need you to weigh in on this. That could be a dark horse. You never know. Slick Niner. At Rob, if Carolina feels Jimmy's better than a rookie at pick 6, they could trade for Jimmy. Absolutely. There are some dark horses out there. All right, let me get back to a couple of the previously submitted questions. Again, if you have a question you want answered now, put it in the chat at this moment and type in at Rob or at Rob Schuh, and I will get to it. Here we go. Does Jed really want to win a Super Bowl? If the answer is yes, does he have the conviction to go all in? This one coming from Tyler W. I think, to me, he in the front office will be much more likely to make a big push type of move in season this year. In season, if things are going well. or next offseason after a solid showing from Trey Lance. It's akin to what Buffalo did with the Diggs push in going for the Diggs trade after Josh Allen's second full year, when they really knew he had upped his game as far as completion percentage. They knew they had a future star. That's when they started to push all the chips in the middle. I see the Niners following sort of that wait and see approach. Like it's somewhat conservative, but they view themselves as a good enough team to compete right now as they're currently built. So it's not uber conservative. It's just moderately conservative. It leaves them wiggle room. It's my sense the 49ers are just simply attempting to be prudent, and I'm okay with prudence. Next one up, coming in from Johnny E. Do you think the 49ers will draft a wide receiver this draft? Yes, absolutely. I would not be surprised to see them draft any of the following: a speedy wide receiver, a specific slot wide receiver, although I think that they envision Ray McLeod filling that role, or another big-bodied wide receiver. Hell, they may end up with two through the draft and through undrafted free agents. I do believe that the Niners go that route. There are a couple of names still out there in free agency, but I think they would cost a little bit more than the Niners are looking to spend. All right, we got a few more previously submitted, but I'm coming back in to tackle your questions live because that's what I like to do. Let's keep that chat going. J-Tan thinks that it could be the Panthers. I think so too. It could be. Could be. Come on Friday at Rob and chat. Besides Jimmy G, any other player on the team you'd look at trading for a pick or player for player? I definitely would look at the linebacker room. I do think the Niners are going to come up against a rock and a hard place with Dre Greenlaw and Azeez Al-Shaair. And to me, it would make sense if you can get an asset for Dre Greenlaw, as long as Azeez isn't signed by another team, the Niners might wait. They might wait until free agency has concluded and that tender is signed. If a team comes in and negotiates with Azeez and the Niners are compensated with a second-round pick in return for him going to that team, then you keep Dre Greenlaw. But as long as Azeez stays on the roster, signs that tender, then I do think that you would look at trading Dre Greenlaw. No one else jumps off the roster as a potential trade, but you could see the 49ers moving one of their depth piece at offensive line because they do have more there than other teams. Even though I know our fan base wants to point to that as a weakness, it really is a pretty deep position. Rick Munoz coming in at Rob. An idea was floated that the Niners could trade Jimmy to the Panthers straight up in return for Sam Darnold. Darnold would back up Lance. What's your opinion? The Niners have already paid their backup quarterback, unfortunately, and that man's name is Nate Sudfeld. When they gave him $2 million guaranteed, $3 million with upside, I do think that signaled that the Niners are going with Nate Sudfeld as their backup. So to trade for Darnold would reduce what they're paying to that quarterback that needs to be traded, but I think they would be in the same scenario. It would be that whole Spider-Man thing where it's Spider-Man looking at Spider-Man. I just think that the Niners would not be interested in that move. Jamie Bryant coming in at Rob Schuh. Brady coming out of retirement screwed Jimmy. It's just karma for us passing on Brady for keeping Jimmy G. LOL. That is one of the factors that played into it. No doubt about it. Stivers 209 at Rob Schuh. Let's cut Jimmy Garoppolo, start the 49ers new quarterback Trey Lance to take us to the Super Bowl, sign Baker Mayfield as a backup quarterback. I don't like the sign Baker thing. I'm okay with cutting Jimmy if you can't trade him, but I definitely believe that they will attempt to trade him, and I still believe that they will be successful. I'll admit it if I'm wrong. Randall Riley. Having a surgery out of spite seems kind of silly. I agree. That's why I can't get on board with that. I do think that, if the doctor was like, well, you could wait a little bit, he may have said, well, what's best for me? Not what's best for the 49ers, what's best for me, and then not taking the Niners into account when deciding on his surgery. But I don't think he did it out of spite or timed it out of spite. KC Turtle 41 at Rob Schuh. Jimmy G was a third-round prospect the Patriots took in the second and paid him a terrible contract. Now he's 30 and known mediocre at best. Don Yee is a total gangster. Yes, Don Yee is a gangster. I still think Jimmy gets traded. Joey Nichols at Rob. Trade to the Hawks. Sign Jimmy to a 10-year contract. Championship? I can't get on board with that. I'm way too excited for Trey, and I think you're joking anyway. Chris Royal at Rob Schuh. I honestly believe Miami is still a silent trade partner. McDaniel will run the perfect offense for Jimmy with a solid run game. I don't think they are 100% in on Tua. That's an interesting thought, Chris. And another dark horse that I don't think you should count out. Again, I think the Niners we need to be patient as the Niners explore all these possibilities. Curtis McLeod coming in at Rob Schuh. Looks like Rob has a 16K ultra high def YouTube cam. Curtis, it is a dope camera. I love it. I freaking love my camera. Wouldn't trade it for the world. Well, that's not true. It has a price tag on it, and I would trade it for that price tag. Moses Martinez coming in at Rob Schuh. How's it going? I've been telling people, don't be surprised if Jimmy G is the starter this upcoming season. I would be, granted, I would be very surprised by that. I realize it's a possibility, and it would be a surprising possibility to me. Sons of Johnny Lamasser coming in with the super chat. Great channel. Keep up the good work. Sons of Johnny, thank you. I'm sorry it took me 5 minutes to get to that super chat. I didn't see it when it came in. My apologies, but I genuinely appreciate it. That cheers was to you. Welcome to the channel. Again, I ask, if you're here and you enjoy the content, smash that like button. Debo, that like button. Hit it. If you enjoy the content, consider subscribing. We got to get me past that 6,666 mark, at least to the 667, beyond the mark of the beast. All right, a couple more previously submitted ones, and then I'm back in to finish out on yours. Here we go. PJ coming in. This is an interesting one. Who would you rather sign? I'd be interested to see what people say in the chat, too, because this is an either or. So a simple either or. Give me your answer on what you prefer. Who would you rather sign, assuming either player would demand top 10% in their position contract? Honey Badger or Steph Gilmore? So let me give you the figures first, because I looked this up before you answer in the chat. Don't answer yet. Wait for this. Stephon Gilmore was estimated on Spot Track to be $14 million. Honey Badger, Tyrann Mathieu, was estimated to be $14.8 million. So basically, we're looking at $15.5 million at 10% over for Stephon Gilmore, or would you want $16.5 million at 10% over for the Honey Badger? You're basically looking at $1 million difference between Stephon Gilmore and the Honey Badger. They're both ball hawks. They're both older. This is a tough one for me. They're both positions of need. If I'm strictly choosing between the two players, not what the 49ers have done in free agency so far, I'm going Tyrann Mathieu due to his health. He is typically available, and Stephon Gilmore has been injured quite a bit. I'm interested, though, to hear what you guys think, because nickel could be argued to be a bigger need for the 49ers. And if you took that into account, I wouldn't fault you. All right, next question. We got two more, and then that's it from the previously submitted ones. We are closing out in the chat after that. Are the 49ers the laughingstock of the league with the way they've handled Jimmy G? Coming in from Jason W. Jason, let me say this emphatically because it's my belief. Most definitely not. The 49ers are not the laughingstock of the league, regardless of how poorly other teams may view the Jimmy Garoppolo trade as having unfolded. No one is laughing at them. This is a team that just made it to the NFC Championship game. Teams are envious of the 49ers. Teams are envious of John Lynch, of Kyle Shanahan, of having multiple options at quarterback. No one is laughing at them. They may be taking some joy. They may be taking some pleasure in the fact that the 49ers are not looking very adept at this moment. I would wager that everyone in the NFC West is smiling at the moment, thinking of the discomfort that 49er faithful are going through, thinking of the stress that John Lynch is going through. But no, I do not think they are laughing at them, because I think most of these teams legitimately fear the 49ers as a threat in this league. They are a very talented roster. All right, this last one was an interesting one, and the full question was intriguing and also a little scary as it started. This Robin P coming in. Again, I will read you the full question. It starts with, let's play a game. That freaked me out right there. I got an email, and the first line was, let's play a game, and I thought, I'm about to get murdered here. Somebody is stalking me, and then it turned out to just be a 49ers-related question from Robin P. So I'm okay with that. Robin P says, let's play a game. You, Rob, are an NFL free agent player this year. You've been offered a contract by the 49ers. It's a middle-of-the-road contract offer. Then you look at the Jimmy Garoppolo drama-rama. Does this drama-rama cause you to think twice about signing, especially if there is another team calling you with a comparable offer? Robin, I love the phrasing of this question, by the way. I was sad to have to shorten it to fit on this little YouTube banner. Makes me sad to have to do that. In answering the question, I will say my answer is it depends. It depends. If everything else is equal, then yes, I am taking into account the Jimmy drama-rama, as you so eloquently put it there. It factors into the decision, but it factors in at a couple of different levels. The Niners have been decent to Jimmy throughout. That matters. As a free agent, I might view the 49ers and the way they've treated Jimmy Garoppolo as reasonably respectful throughout a very challenging situation. I might see that as a positive, that, hey, they're doing a solid by this guy. They didn't release him. They didn't trade him to a crappy team. They're looking to trade him to a team that he's interested in playing for. I respect them for doing that. So maybe I take that into account. But I think the stronger, compelling side of it is that I'd prefer to have a drama-free workplace. I know I look for that when I'm considering jobs, when I'm considering working for a company. What's the drama like there? And if it's over the top, I don't want any piece of that. To me, as long as Jimmy and Trey are both on the team, there's going to be some drama-rama. All right, getting back into your comments now. Only 10 minutes behind. We will catch up. One Bad Hawkeye says, at Rob, could or should consider trading up to draft Tyler Linderbaum to help the offensive line? I like some of the other center options. To me, that would be a little too far because I think he's going in the first for sure. You'd have to give up a lot of draft capital to frickin' get up there. Moses says, Rob Schuh, my grade for Charvarius Ward is a B grade. Thoughts? I had it a little bit higher. I have it as a B plus, A minus. I go A minus after seeing the terms of the contract. After comparing what J.C. Jackson got to Charvarius Ward, I think it's a scheme fit. I like the dog mentality that I see in him, that I hear from him. So I've got a little bit higher. But Moses, I'd be interested to hear your expanded thoughts because I know you have some insight on corners. Michael Ryder coming in. At Rob, so Jimmy's record is 31-14 with the 49ers in regular season, 5-2 in the playoffs. Kyle's record without Jimmy is 8-27. So if Kyle's so great, why can't he win without Jimmy? So yes, Jimmy G has value. Yes, those things are true. I also think that it's not a complete argument to just list out the win and loss records with Jimmy and without Jimmy. I think that's a bit of an oversimplification. I agree wholeheartedly with you here, Michael, that Jimmy has value. I would say it would take a very long, compelling case to actually suss out Jimmy's value and why he has value, list his pros and cons. I just think people like a reductionist view of that, but I agree with your overall implication here. Jimmy has value. Official BNA Music 88 at Rob. I wasn't implying him as trash, just extremely mediocre, and fans would not stand for it. Just like how we threaten mutiny if Jones was drafted. You take risks for high ceiling players. I think that is fair. And I get the emotion at this point. No question. The emotion is definitely riding high for 49ers fans because we've been going through some pretty significant stress to this point with both of these quarterbacks on the roster. All right, I saw a super chat. I will then scroll back up and make sure to get your thoughts as well. Chris Royal, the NFC West is smirking at the Jimmy G conundrum, but it quickly turns to a frown knowing they have to face Trey Lance the next 10 to 15 years. Chris Royal coming in with the mic drop moments. That's what I'm talking about. Nobody's laughing at the 49ers. Yeah, they're smirking. Yeah, they're taking some solace in the fact that the Niners are struggling at the moment. But no, they know they're coming up against this team, and this team is a stacked team. Ooh, I'm getting into the section where people are talking about Gilmore. I want to see it. Look at that. We got someone who subscribed. I love that. Sports Express. Appreciate you subscribing. Hypnotic says Gilmore. Sports Express wants Honey Badger. Joey wants Gilmore. I'm telling you, it is back and forth. Gilmore, JG1. Gilmore. Man, people are in but hey, maybe I'm in the minority there. Come on Friday with this at Rob. Any thoughts on Ingram or Clowny rumors to the Niners? I actually looked at both of those guys. No, I talked about that earlier, right? I talked about them in free agency, Clowny and Ingram. I do see Clowny as the injury history with his steep price tag. I would just stay away from that altogether. The other one, the Ingram, Melvin Ingram is intriguing to me. He's old. He has injury issues, but he could be had real cheap. He could be a piece that you add. That one is much more intriguing to me, the Melvin Ingram piece. Lycan, 4647 coming in. To answer Michael's question, Jimmy missed the 2020 season when a lot of our star players were hurt, and 2018. If Jimmy played those seasons, would his record be as good? That's a very fair question. I mean, in those years, the 49ers did struggle more. You can make the argument. It's the carrot or the chicken or the egg argument, right? Did they struggle because Jimmy wasn't out, or were they struggling anyway? And Jimmy's record benefited from not playing with those struggling teams. It's one that, again, I believe it's an oversimplification to just say that Jimmy Garoppolo is responsible for the actual win-loss record, or that he doesn't bear responsibility for it. Again, I think it has to be a much more nuanced conversation in order to get to the bottom of it. Just my take on it. Just my take. All right, I'm scrolling back up to get to some of these questions that I had to scroll past to get to that super chat. Abel Gonzalez, at Rob, would you trade that camera for Jimmy? LOL. I would not. I would not. Is that an insult to Jimmy? I just don't have a need for a Jimmy in my life. I don't. I'm not sure what that jawline is doing around here, except making my jawline look less impressive. That's the only thing that Jimmy around. I mean, if he would be my co-host, if he were willing to take a pay cut and be my co-host, yes, I would I would go buy a new camera and bring Jimmy in. Come on, Jimmy. You know you want to be on this podcast. All right, Roger Sellers, at Rob Schuh. Which veteran free agent wide receiver would you like to see the Niners sign, if any? I know it's not likely because I think he's going to get more, but Jarvis Landry, to me, is the most exciting, consistent veteran wide receiver out there. To me, I think some team is going to get a steal, but I would guess that he's going to choose where he goes based on where he wants to be, and I haven't heard him talk about the Niners yet. One Bad Hawkeye, at Rob, you need to tell your boy Grant to stop talking about trading Kittle or Bosa. I can't stop him. He is his own man. He does his own thing. I'm on his show once a week. When I'm there, I attempt to keep the conversation reasonable, and I appreciate what Grant does in throwing dialogue out there. I do think he goes too far at some points in attempting to get people traded or to push a narrative, but it's his prerogative. He's a grown-ass man. He gets to do what he wants. So I will continue trying to bring him towards reason, but I can't stop him. I can't. Come on Friday. Rob, any thoughts on Ingram? Oh, heard that one. Saw that one. Paul Perriman, at Rob Schuh. Off topic. Are Portland winters really that bad, Rob? Was contemplating moving there because it's much cheaper than the Bay, where I'm from, or Hawaii, where I'm at. By the way, you're killing it, bro. Thank you, Paul. I really love Portland. I understand that from a national narrative, it may seem as if this is a city that's in the middle of a lot of stuff. And don't get me wrong, in certain circumstances, the city is struggling with some things. Homelessness is an issue that I have no idea how to tackle, so I'm not even going to get into that, but it is an issue. It's limited primarily to the downtown area. Portland's sort of a sprawling suburb in the other quadrants, and a very pleasant place to live. There are 3 months out of the year that are brutal. I remember my first winter here, the first December I spent in Portland. I didn't see the sun for the first 26 days of that month. It took until the 27th of December before I saw the sun in that month. But other than those 3 months, and those are the months where you plan a trip to go back to Hawaii for a month, other than that, spring is gorgeous. I mean, freaking gorgeous. All that rain creates all kinds of blossoms. We have cherry blossoms. We have roses. It's the Rose City. It's gorgeous. Fall is gorgeous weather. And then the summers are great. It barely ever cracks 90. Yes, it is humid. So when it cracks 95, you are dying. But that is very seldom. So I don't want to sell people on moving to Portland because the property prices are already going up too much. But in this one case, I would say yes, Paul. I am very fond of Portland? Appreciate the question. Thomas Luttrell coming in at Rob Schuh. With all the quarterback slots taken, it's time to cut number 10. Donald has a fully guaranteed fifth-year option of $18 million, so that doesn't work. It would be too big a risk to hold out for an injury. I agree, Thomas, but that deadline doesn't start until bringing him in for camp. Until then, unless the 49ers had plans to sign a free agent they couldn't otherwise afford by extending or renegotiating other contracts, I think Jimmy stays on the roster. I do think he stays on the roster. Stivers 209 at Rob Schuh. Can we hire Jim Harbaugh to the Niners to sign Kyle Shanahan? He often security. I'm not sure what that means. Manuel Rodriguez, you get a timeout. A timeout for that. Portland is not trash. I get that it doesn't fit the narrative. Maybe I was too harsh there, but it was just a timeout. Just 5 minutes for saying my city is trash. I don't think that is too far out of line, but I get that you were probably just being off the cuff. No hard feelings on my part. Hopefully no hard feelings for me putting you in a timeout. Stivers 209. Rob, show me the money. Starting Tom Cruise. What money? Starring Tom Cruise. What movie? That is Show Me the Money. Jerry Maguire. That's what that is. We've gone into the trivia section of the questions. All right, Lycan 4647, move Thomas to the slot. I don't think so. I think what you're looking at is a scenario. Matt Barrows played this out, and I've seen it coming out from other people, and they're not giving credit to Matt Barrows. I've been giving credit to Matt Barrows the entire time because he put this out last week. You've got Charvarius Ward starting on one side, on the outside. You've got E-Man starting on the other outside. Then when you get to a nickel package where you need a nickel corner to come in, Emmanuel Mosley, who plays nickel, slides inside. And then Ambry Thomas comes off the bench and plays the outside corner only in those nickel packages. It's what the Niners did with Chris Culliver and Carlos Rogers back in 2011. And again, Matt Barrows put that out there. And I think he deserves credit because I think that the 49ers may be going that route. It puts a lot of emphasis on Emmanuel Mosley and his health, but it allows the 49ers to have flexibility, which we know is something that they covet. Lycan 4647 coming back in. If Jimmy is traded or released, do we draft a quarterback in a later round? I don't think so. I think you're looking at maybe a very late round, someone that could be a practice squad quarterback. Yes, that is a possibility. I just talked myself into it. Not someone that's going to be on the 53-man roster. I believe the Niners have signaled to us by the contract that they gave to Nate Sudfeld, yes, Nate Sudfeld, that Trey Lance will be the starter and Nate Sudfeld will be the backup. I think they only rolled with two quarterbacks on the 53-man roster, but they most definitely will have somebody on the practice squad, and that could be a rookie. I would guess a veteran, but it could be a rookie. Absolutely could be. All right, getting back up into some of the questions that I skipped for that super chat. Ooh, that one's not so tasteful. Not offensive, but not tasteful. Here we go. Gabriel coming in at Rob. How far do you think we can make it with this current roster if we do not make any moves from here on out? No moves. I mean, you got the draft, right? We got a draft, but I get what you're saying. Like with this roster, I still think you're looking at a team that can compete in the playoffs. I would like to add a couple of pieces to feel secure in the 49ers competing for the Super Bowl. And that's where a little bit of my frustration comes in feeling that the 49ers are being prudent, is that I get it. I understand it. And I actually agree with it for the most part. But I think they're close. And I think if you fail to capitalize on Super Bowl windows, you can see what happened in recent history when the Harbaugh era came down to a screeching halt. I believe that Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch are looking at more of a long, elongated view, and they're playing it the smart way. But if it ends up costing us a single Super Bowl, I think it was the wrong strategy. I do think at times you got to be aggressive and push all in. I understand the Niners may be waiting to do that. Leo R. Sneakerhead here on the channel coming in to say, yo, Leo. Good to see you. Good to see you. Special psych at Rob. At this point, should we just, that was the one I thought was slightly distasteful. I apologize. I don't think that we should make light of Ukraine. I think what's going on there is tragic. I didn't intend to put that one up because it seems to make light of war, and we shouldn't do that. So I apologize for putting it up. I don't mean any disservice to Special Psych. I don't think that you intended that with any ill will, but it just feels like maybe it's in bad taste to put it up. So I apologize for having put that up there. Alan coming in, Honey Badger. He wants Honey Badger. I was on the minority there, though. Alan, you and I were some of the few folks that wanted Honey Badger. Most wanted Stephon Gilmore. I think people were looking at addressing that nickel position. All right, Starco fan at Rob Schuh. I'm calling it right now, man. Christian Watson and Trey Lance will be the Jamar Chase and Burrow 2.0. I'd love that, but I don't think that he's fallen to 61 in the draft. I think he's gone before that. Paul Perryman at Rob Schuh. Before Jimmy G came on board in 2017, didn't we lose like 8 games by the least amount of points in the NFL history? And that was with hacks. I'm not sure the takeaway from that, but yes, very true. It was like 3 points or less for most of those. Ike Sanders at Rob Schuh. When people speak about Jimmy's win-loss record, which quarterbacks are they comparing him to? Nick Mullins, CJ Beathard? Not a fair comparison, just an easy stat to promote their claim. I agree. I don't think it's a meaningless stat, but I also think it needs greater context. Ooh, Joey Nichols. Joey Nichols saying, at Rob, brutal? You want brutal? Try Montana in winter. Joey's not kidding. Joey, I have felt your pain. I went to Big Sky, Montana once for a Christmas vacation. We went skiing out at some nice resort there. And when we arrived in Bozeman, Montana, it was 20 degrees below zero. It was unpleasant. The inside of my nose literally froze and expanded, and the pain of it was something else that I had never felt before. You instantaneously knew that your skin was dying in that temperature. The rest of the week we were there, it hovered around zero, and it felt toasty warm in comparison to that first night when we got there. I feel you. Montana winters are brutal. That cold is something else. And Joey points out, by the way, winter in Montana is like 6 months out of the year. Paul Perryman at Rob Schuh. Thanks for the advice about Portland. I love the rain, and I'm a vegan too. So 2 things at the top of your list. It should be, if you're a vegan and you love rain, Portland is the place for you, Paul. Let me tell you, come on Friday at Rob, top 5 current free agents you want Lynch to swing at in coming weeks. Some good talent still available at edge, offensive line, wide receiver, and safety. I totally agree. Some of those names, Derek Barnett would be one. Tyrann Mathieu would be a wish list, but otherwise Terrell Edmonds at safety would be another. So there's 2, Derek Barnett and the other. Let me get a list of free agents available. Because I agree. I think that there are a lot of talent. There is a lot of talent out there. A lot of talented names still available. I'd be okay with Odell Beckham Jr. as someone who comes on later in the season. I'm not a huge fan of bringing in Bobby Wagner because I honestly believe that doesn't provide us with great value. Definitely believe that J.C. Treader could be an interesting one, 31 years old, the best available center on the market. That one is less of an interest as soon as we are 1,000% sure Alex Mack is back. Stephon Gilmore is a name that I would be comfortable with. A couple of the offensive linemen that are out there, Jarvis Landry is another name that I would love to be associated with. The Marquez Valdez-Scantling that we've been linked to, I'm not a huge fan there. I'd be okay with that one, though. I have heard good things from sources I trust about Billy Turner as a depth piece along the offensive line. And I'll give you one more that is an injury risk, but again, high upside. So I'm okay trading injury risk for high upside, and that's Will Fuller, the wide receiver who just cannot stay healthy. When he is healthy, that guy's going to put up a freaking monster year. I just don't know that he ever will be healthy. Steve Avila coming in at Rob. No love for Diamador Lenore at slot corner. I think I have love there as a backup there. As a backup. Yes, sir, with a question. Rob, who's your favorite Niner on offense and defense of all time? Offense is Jerry Rice. That was my infatuation as a kid. He was my favorite player as a kid. I think defense is probably more recent. It would either be, if I were going old school, it'd be Ronnie Lott. If I were going new school, it would be Patrick Willis. I haven't given the thought it requires to definitively say. So I'm going 1A, 1B. Historic, Ronnie Lott. More modern day, Patrick Willis. Ooh, this is a good one, though. These are the answers for Great Tone 765, Jerry Rice and Deion Sanders. I like those picks. We are aligned on Jerry Rice, and I cannot fault you for Deion, although he was only here for 1 year, and I saw him as a mercenary, and he broke my heart. You broke my heart, Fredo. So I had a tough time going back to that one. Chris Royal with the super chat. Jimmy to the practice squad. Not being serious. That's funny, but we just need to get him out of here, Chris. Chris, for my sanity, we need to get the man out of the building. Jimmy J, not Jimmy G. Jimmy J is in the comments. No need for a Jimmy? I get it. I say things like that and don't realize it until it comes, out, and then you hear it and you're like, oh, yep, I just said that on live, and it's there for eternity. Bro Montana with the super sticker. It is much appreciated, Bro Montana. Appreciate you. All right, man, there are a lot of questions coming in. Hypnotic coming in. Jimmy started 45 regular season games for San Francisco and has 52 turnovers in those games. Facts. There's your market value. I mean, but that's not a stat that really says a whole heck of a lot. I mean, a 1.1 turnover per game differential without the touchdown to interception ratio, it's less meaningful. And honestly, an average of 1 interception per game is not that bad. 1 turnover per game, 1.1 turnovers per game is not terrible, right? I don't think that fact, I'm not disputing it. It is absolutely true. It is a fair critique of Jimmy Garoppolo, are the turnovers. And I don't think in and of itself, it's enough evidence to say, there you go. There's your market value. I think that's too simple of an argument. I think we have to layer more into that, but it's a factor, absolutely a factor, Hypnotic, and I'm not disputing it. Niners Sickness Podcast coming on as the newest sneakerhead here on the channel. Niners Sickness, welcome. We appreciate you being here. Always a good dude. I remember having a great conversation on your channel. Christopher Keith coming in at Rob Schuh. What about Houston? Are they looking for a quarterback or are they rolling with Mills? They seem to be rolling with Mills, but I think that's another dark horse that could climb out of the gutter and be in the Jimmy Garoppolo sweepstakes. Somebody's got to get involved, right? We need you. We need you, Houston. Houston. Darren Worthington at Rob. The Rams didn't go all in until mid-season. There's time still. That's what I'm saying. I do predict that the Niners make an in-season trade this year because I do have faith in Trey. I think Trey comes out. Trey confirms who the Niners believe him to be, but are not 100% certain on yet. As soon as they have that certainty, as soon as they have confirmed their belief in Trey Lance, then they push more chips into the center of the table. And that move comes with moving a couple of picks or something to bring in one of these free agents who becomes available mid-season. Maybe it's a late signing of Odell Beckham Jr. Maybe he's still available at that point. He may not want to sign until he's closer to being fully healthy so that he gets the biggest contract he possibly can. I think the Niners are not done. I agree with that. George coming in at Rob. Hope everything's going well for you, my man. Haven't had the best day today, but glad I can still get on and catch your mailbag. George, I'm sorry to hear that about your day. Happy to connect and hear more about it. If that's something you want to share, man, hit me up at 49ersmailbag at gmail.com. I'd say it's been a good day here. I got in a good workout today, a nice walk at some point as well. There's sunshine going on in Portland. I'm in a good space, but it always pains me to hear somebody else who's not. I know what it's like to not be in a good space, and so I take those things seriously. I'm hopeful that being here, sharing this time with other Niner faithful, hearing me talk about the Niners can lift you up in some way, George. Cheers. Know that this too shall pass. There's no doubt about it. No matter what it is, everything in this life is temporary, and we can take some solace in that. It means the good times are fleeting, but it also means the bad times will pass. Andrew coming in at Rob. How do you think the 49ers will address the backup tight end depth this offseason? I hope it's Jelani Woods in the draft. That's my infatuation at tight end. Go look him up. Jelani Woods, he ran a 4.6 40 at 6'7", 260 pounds. The man is a beast, and he ran like a freight train. Jeremy Chrisman. Wait, is Rob from Portland holding the torch high in Sea Chicken Land? Yes, and there are a lot of Niner faithful here in Portland. It's like 50% of the way. Not really. It's closer to Seattle than it is to San Francisco. But it's, Oregon is sandwiched, and so you do have both. You do have the Seahawks fans, unfortunately, but you have a lot of Niner faithful as well. So I am surrounded by good Niner faithful in addition to those Seahawks fans. All right, Lycan 4647. What do we need more? A true slot receiver or another defensive end? Personally, I think Bosa needs some help. I agree with that wholeheartedly. You could say slot receiver, we just got Ray McLeod, so we've partially addressed it. He caught 30-some balls out of the slot for Pittsburgh last year. But we didn't go all in on a slot receiver. Could still say there's a need. At the other defensive end position, Samson Ebukam, Charles Omenihu, those are really it. You haven't re-signed Jordan Willis yet. D Ford is a huge question mark. So I agree with you here, Lycan 4647. I'm going to go edge, and I do think there's a strong possibility that the Niners either get a veteran edge player still in free agency or go after edge at 61. 61 is a prime spot for them to go edge in the draft. Mr. Amazing at Rob, you're a real cool, positive dude. Appreciate that, Mr. Amazing. I'm guessing from a name like Mr. Amazing, you're a positive dude yourself. And I appreciate those people who attempt to put out positivity. You can't always do it. Sometimes you got to be realistic, but I try to be positive and realistic. Dr. Robert Anthony Jr., another sneakerhead here on the channel at Rob Schuh. More depth and cheaper players are still to be cut. Yeah, I do think that there's more depth to be had. Some players will be cut. It is not over. We cannot say what the grade on the offseason is yet because it's still happening. Christopher Keith. Okay, Rob Schuh. If Houston, they have pick 37, what would you do with that pick? I would take Jalen Petrie at 37 in a heartbeat. I think that would be great. Maybe okay. Now 37, you got me thinking because we could probably go Boye Mafe there. That's tough. You got to see how the board falls up until then, but I would either go edge or safety. I mean, I'm locked in on Jalen Petrie, as you can probably tell. I sort of do that where I'm a bit obsessive compulsive and I lock in on somebody that I really like. That would be the way I would go. I'd be real tempted at edge because you could get a quality edge rusher at 37. And then at 61, you could go interior O-line or safety. I don't think there's a huge need at safety. I just love Jalen Petrie. That's the deal. I mean, I'm not in love with the man, but I love what I saw at the combine. Epic Wolf at Rob. There's no way the Panthers going with Sam Darnold. He's worse than Jimmy G. They are getting Jimmy G for sure. Speaking it into existence, Epic Wolf. I don't think it's a certainty, but I will take your freaking positivity there. Absolutely speak that into existence. George coming back in at Rob. Thank you. I really appreciate you for being here, for everyone on the channel, for some of us who feel like we don't really have anyone to talk to. Much respect to you, George. I hope you do have some folks to talk to. And if you don't, I hope you reach out to me. I mean that honestly, I think everybody deserves to have an ear, some shoulder to lean on. I know I need it at times. Melvin coming in at Rob. I was complaining about our O-line on Jack's channel, and he said that he's not concerned about it because we've only lost Laken. Do you feel the same way? Yes and no. I'm not quite as sure of our backups as some folks I've talked to, Jack being among them. And I do believe that the 49ers have much greater depth at the offensive line than the vast majority of NFL teams out there. So I feel somewhere in the middle there. I thought Laken was a big loss. I think it's a hole that we need to fill. And I do like our depth. Emotional damage on the radio. At Rob Schuh, do you think the Vikings will still trade Cousins after they re-signed him? I don't know. I haven't been keeping up to date on the Cousins drama, admittedly. I think it's less likely after you restructure somebody. Like the Matt Ryan thing, they didn't actually restructure him. They said they restructured him. The deal didn't get signed, and then he got traded because they hadn't restructured it. It would have made it more difficult if they had, in fact, inked that deal. Xburner361, Rob Schuh, with the Niners being such a storied franchise, why does it seem like all of the team's franchise quarterbacks, excluding Steve Young, had their time with the team end on bad terms? I think good teams tend to do that. They tend to cut ties with a player the year before they start to really drop off. It's a solid organizational strategy. It just sucks from a human perspective. It sucks for the player. It sucks for the fan base. But from a talent perspective, from a team building perspective, I get it. Alexander F. just coming in to say, Rob, you are the man. And I appreciate you, Alexander. I appreciate you. Starco fan 212 at Rob Schuh. I know that I think Watson will be drafted in the second round, but who do you think will be drafted at 61? I don't have a prediction yet. I'm going to lay out an entire mock draft and I will hit you with it. Keldon, Rob is crazy. He brings rational thought to the internet. There is no place for that here. Keldon, well said. And I hope well read. I hope I did justice to that comment because it was a good comment. Keldon, cheers. Carlo, coming in, Rob Schuh, what do you think our chances of getting Cole Strange with our second round pick? So I was going to answer that. I don't think it's out of the question that the Niners go somewhere like Cole Strange at 61 that Starco fan asked about. I think it would be more likely if they traded back a few slots into the early third that then you might see them take the interior line piece. Emotional damage on the radio. Will Colin Kaepernick ever get an NFL starting chance again? I don't think so. It's a damn shame. I don't think so. Thomas Luttrell, Rob Schuh, I'm not a 10 fan, but Grant Cohn's minions said anyone could play quarterback in this offense. Folks were saying Mullins was better than 10. When he flopped, it was, what did you expect from a backup? 10 wasn't all bad. Yeah, it's crazy to go with this narrative of Jimmy being trash. It's okay to criticize Jimmy. I criticize Jimmy. But you have to tell both sides of the story, unless you're going for an oversimplified argument and you just want to sort of shout your argument from your side, have someone shout their argument from theirs. I don't get the appeal of that, but I understand a lot of people do, that they like to just sort of bark at one another. I feel like I'm getting some of that in the comments over on the channel that I still have to respond to because I like to be kind in my response to those comments. I like to give a well thought out response. I like to try and sway those people to a more reasonable belief. And I like to convey to them that, hey, you can disagree with me, but as soon as you start to say things in a condescending fashion towards me, you've lost your argument. Now you're attempting to insult me. I'm not going to respond to that well. I'm probably no longer going to go back and forth with you in the comments sections. Let's just keep this civil. So I attempt to tell people that it's easier to say that when I'm live and a comment comes up, I can speak to it. But in the comments section of the videos, I have to go back and forth with them. That's hard to do. But I agree. You've got to tell both sides of the story. Otherwise, you're just being biased. I'm fine with the idea of criticizing him. Indeed. Ernesto at Rob, love your show. Coming from a Rams fan, Jimmy is staying, LOL. Ernesto, I hope you're wrong, and I hope you come over to our side at some point. I'm telling you. Come on over. The Niner faithful are fun to be around. Dr. Anthony Jr. coming in at Rob Schuh. Seattle could draft a quarterback at 9 as well as Carolina at 6. Baker and Jimmy G could be left out in the cold. Chris Royal coming in. Shout out to my crew in the Niner Empire Salem chapter. Portland has a big group as well. Rob, not sure if you've ever met up with any one of them. I have not. I've not met up with the Portland crew or the Salem chapter. Chris, hook me up with the Salem chapter. When you guys getting together next, I will come out. And I will say that I'll look for the Portland chapter. I don't know anybody in it, but somebody's got to be around here, right? George at Rob, I'm not sure if you mentioned it yet, but do you think there are any landing spots for Jimmy G still? I do. I think there are some that you keep your eye on, but I'm not getting my hopes up. I'm keeping my eye on Carolina. I'm keeping my eye on Philly, the Giants. I'm keeping my eye on Houston, but it is cold out there right now. Joey Nichols, a thoughtful, good dude. Appreciate that, Joey. Appreciate that. Emotional damage on the radio at Rob Schuh. You are a good-looking man. Love your vids. Keep up the good work. Like and subscribe. Hey, I appreciate that. I like compliments. I like to know that, when I put this back out on the market, that I'm going to get some bidders, right? That I'm going to get some trade partners, unlike Jimmy Garoppolo, apparently. Michael Ryder at Rob Schuh. We all have to admit we aged a lot during the Jimmy G years. Yes, we did. The wins were stressful, more than they needed to be. Part Jimmy, part Kyle. Hope for easier wins and stress-free games with Trey. Amen to that, Michael. Well said. Quesadilla Thrilla 71. Rob, dang, you had to drop the shoe. Telling you. Quesadilla Thrilla 71. Shoe. My bad, dang dogs running around blasting my hands. Hey, it's okay. I am used to the misspellings of the last name. It happens pretty frequently, and I'm okay with it. All right, a couple more comments. Here we go. Darren Worthington coming in at Rob. I'm glad you got to get out to the combine, because I've always said you deserve a big gig. That's what's up. Good job, brother. Appreciate that, Darren. It was a hell of a good time. Nick Money Meyer coming in. Rob, Panthers cleared cap space and redid McCaffrey's deal to $5 million. Jimmy and the Stanford connection. Thoughts? McCaffrey, $5 million? I think that it is a team to keep our eyes on, but I'm not getting my hopes up just yet. Gabriel coming in at Rob. The game is won in the trenches. Someone that we should look at is the guard from Dallas, Connor Williams. He's 25 years old. The potential is still there. Play the kid. I would love a young guard candidate to come in and compete. To me, that would be a win. At Rob Schuh, Garoppolo and Baker to the USFL. One of them might. It's possible. JG1 at Rob at 61. Maybe they draft 6'2" Khair Elam, the cornerback out of Florida, who runs a 4.39 40. I think they're pretty set at corner at this point, but I'm not sure. Al Debo hit that hole. Thank you, Alan. I appreciate that. We'll close out here on Dr. Robert Anthony Jr.'s comment here. The great John Clayton from ESPN, that epic commercial where he's got the ponytail. He finishes it. He says, "Mom, I finished my segment," as he's going into the Chinese food. Epic. John Clayton passed away over the weekend. We lost a legend. It saddens me. It's a part of life. I get that. We all have a finite amount of time on this planet. And still, I would hope that when I pass, there will be some people that will take a moment of silence, that will appreciate my contributions, whatever they were, small, big, insignificant, or not. They will take that and take a moment of their time to appreciate it. Take a moment out of your life while you're still living to appreciate someone else whose last breath expired. And I do think it's worth taking a moment to remember John Clayton. Cheers to you, John. I am a big believer in the celebration of life. I think everyone should go out and watch his YouTube video. I think you should go have a laugh at that commercial, because I think that's what John Clayton would want. I'm a big believer in that celebration of life, as it should be. Doesn't need to be a sad moment. It can just be reflective. I appreciate all of the questions in on this one. I appreciate all of the interactions here. I'm thrilled to have the dialogue that we do. I love the people that put in the questions beforehand on Twitter. I love the people that email me at 49ersmailbag@gmail.com. And I love those of you that are here with me live, asking your questions in the chat. I will be back tomorrow at 5 p.m. with Between Two Beards with Randall McMahon. Until then, cheers, faithful.